I need answers and I need them right now with immediate effect. I want to know what happened. What happened, babes? Because I was going through old pictures on my phone and I came across certain plants and I asked myself, oh my goodness gracious, where did these plants go to? Why doesn't anyone seem to talk about these plants? They've all but disappeared and then no one even stocks them anymore. What is going on? Oh my goodness gracious. So girlies, in today's video, we're going on an investigative deep dive, if you would, to ascertain why these plants pretty much have disappeared from our collections, our big box stores. No one seems to talk about them anymore. I've also got a couple of my own theories as to why these plants are nowhere to be found. And for each plant I mention here, we're gonna ask ourselves the question, should they come back? Should we give them a second chance in life? Or should they remain permanently forgotten? Without much ado, darlings, grab a cup of coffee. As usual, grab something, grab someone. You may certainly need to clutch your pearls for this one. And let's get to the nitty-gritty. Ladies and gentlemen, the first plant on our list is the Philodendron fuzzy petiole. Oh yes, some of you may have forgotten that such a plant existed, but I have not. And I'm here to remind you that at one point during the philodendron craze and the philodendron era, where we bought philodendrons simply because they were philodendrons, this was being marketed to us. Yeah, and this has always been a hard sell because honestly speaking, babes, apart from that questionable fuzzy petiole, hence the name of the plant, it really didn't have anything else going for it. Yeah, it really didn't have anything else going for it. And in fact, I will say that it was quickly overshadowed by other philodendrons during this period. I mean, look at it. This looks like something that one could easily mistake as a weed. It could pop up in your garden as a weed and then you throw it away thinking it's going to, become a nuisance and become invasive, especially in its juvenile form. So what a lot of the girlies do not know is that this plant, when it grows into maturity, it honestly starts to look a bit more prestigious, starts to look a bit more beautiful, appealing. But in its juvenile form, it looks like a BB, a basic bitch. Yeah. So it really didn't have much going for it. I remember I had a specimen, and then after a while I got bored. I asked myself, what is the purpose of growing this plant? I got bored, and the moment it started to decline, I could care less. Also, the way this plant was being sold back then, and this is a pet peeve I have with some of my American growers, I've noticed that you all generally tend to have the tendency to pack a lot of vines in a pot for certain plants just to create the illusion of something really bushy. That doesn't work best, especially for climbing plants, yo. It works for the occasional pothos and the occasional violin plant, but for climbing and crawling plants, the plant ends up looking like a hot, unruly mess. And I remember that was the case with the Philodendron fuzzy petiole when it was being sold. And because there were so many different vines in a pot, one will grow this way, one will grow this way, one will grow this way. And for a very basic looking plant, a lot of us just couldn't be bothered, honestly, couldn't be bothered. But that's my theory as to why I feel this plant just has disappeared and doesn't seem like it's going to make a comeback anytime soon. But I'm curious to know your thoughts, babes. Over to you. Is this a plant you ever grew? That's the first thing I want to ask. Also, do you still have this plant in your collection? That's another thing I'm dying to know. Secondly, thirdly, I've always been horrible at math. Do you want this plant to come back again? Is this a plant that you want us to bring back in 2026? Should she have her moments back? Do let me know in the comment section, but for me, I say no. I say no, she needs to remain in oblivion. and never to return again. But ladies and gentlemen, yes, the Philodendron fuzzy petiole. Speaking of fuzzy petioles, there's another one that had her moment. Oh, she did have a moment during the Philodendron rare plant craze. I'm talking about the Philodendron squamiferum. Yeah. Philodendron squamiferum. This is another one that, honestly speaking, I'm so glad that we have come a long way in this hobby. Especially us that started this hobby back during the Panini era. Panini means pandemic, because I know there's always that one lost person that will ask me what I mean by that. But back then, we just used to buy plants for their very, inconsequential differences, right? And the selling point that this particular Philodendron had was that it had those hairy-like petioles. That was just it, babes. If you want a Philodendron that has hairy petioles, get the Philodendron squamiferum. Thinking about it now, I'm like, no. Because those hairy petals, I don't know, they just look somehow scary to me right now. Back then, when I was still an impressionable plant dad, I could have fallen for the marketing hat. But now I'm like, it looks icky. Does it do anything else? Do you get what I mean? And for the Philodendron squamiferum, it didn't do anything else. It just had those fuzzy petioles. So what really was the incentive to have a Philodendron squamiferum? Oops. That's the spirit of the Philodendron squamiferum trying to attack me. Which is why this plant has all but faded into oblivion. Yeah. But again, I am curious to know your thoughts. Over to you. Is this something that we definitely need to bring back? Is this something that needs to have its moment, or do you feel like, she belongs in, the forgotten vault because she has nothing else to offer apart from those hairy petioles? Another Philodendron that, honestly speaking, especially in my country, I don't know if this was the rave where you're watching, but in my country, this was like the ultimate status symbol back in the day. If you were a rich Nigerian plant auntie and you didn't have this plant in your collection, then were you really a rich Nigerian plant auntie? Back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the Philodendron rojo congo. This huge mamacita, this big ginormous plant. Remember when this plant came into the scene? Oh my goodness, it was like the ultimate statement plant, and it wasn't cheap. At least in my country, it wasn't cheap, girlies. So what happened? What went wrong? I will tell you that for free. It just takes up too much space. It takes up too much space, love. When you think about it, I think for a lot of us, these self-heading philodendrons that grow really huge, we've realized that they're not very practical. And they take up a lot of surround space. At least with the climbing ones and the vining ones, you can grow them, vertically, or you can have them this cascading downwards on a shelf, right? But these self-heading philodendrons, and even these crawling philodendrons, this mamacita, she's actually has started to make a comeback. Have you noticed that? I'm beginning to see her pop up in different people's collections. But the rojo congo, beautiful and lovely. I still love this plant, honestly. But honestly speaking, I think it takes up a lot of space, both indoors and even outdoors. Outdoors, in a hellfire country like mine, you need to have a lot of shaded space to grow this plant. If not, the Nigerian sun will just fry to pieces, which is why I eventually sold mine. I loved mine, but every now and then, I live in a rented apartment. I don't have a lot of shaded outdoor space. Every now and then, the Nigerian sun will just fry her to pieces. And one day I got frustrated and I sold her off. But do let me know your thoughts, because this is a conversation. This is a conversation between you and I. Would you say this plant is forgotten? When was the last time you saw a Philodendron rojo congo in your big box stores? You know, I would wager a penny or two that I'm right. This belongs on this list. She's a forgotten girl. And would you say we need to bring this babe back in 2026? Let me know in the comment section if she deserves a comeback. I love her, but I just feel like, babe, she's not practical. She's not practical. She's not functional. And for that reason, she belongs in the Oblivion vault. Yeah. Now, we're leaving the Philodendron class and the Philodendron genus. In fact, this whole video, if I wanted to speak on Philodendrons alone, this whole video, it would take up this whole video because pretty much the girlies have all but forgotten about that genus of plants. So many plants in that genus have been forgotten. But let's move on, yo. Do you remember the Syngonium? Yes, the Syngonium silver frost. Oh yes. Some of you may have forgotten there was a plant once called the Syngonium silver frost. And she was a highly coveted plant by the collectors, by the rare plant girlies. I remember this plant was a wish list plant for me for so long, but you couldn't find them anywhere in this nation of mine. You still cannot. I remember I got one and I was so happy, but Jesus Christ of the living Nazareth, this babe gave me a hard time. It never flourished in my care. One day I gave up and it died, and I haven't found another one since then. What is the tea? Philodendron, silver frost, whatever happened to this plant? I'm assuming that a lot of people found it difficult, or is this not a marketable plant? To me, even till this day, I feel like this is a plant that can have its moment. Or am I mistaken? It's a type of the Syngonium chiampans. There's the regular Syngonium chiampans that honestly is a hard sell. Somebody was trying to sell that to me the other day and I quickly came back to my senses because it literally looks like a weed. It's the green form. There's the variegated Syngonium chiampans that, you know, she's a hot commodity amongst the plant snobs and the collectors, so I'll give her that. And then there's this one, the Syngonium chiampans silver frost, that just didn't seem to ever catch on and has all but faded into oblivion. What is the tea? Oh, I don't know about you, but honestly speaking, even though this plant gave me a hard time and was honestly a pain, I think I want to give her a try again. Because one, I feel like I now have more experience. I mean, my green thumb these days is thumbing like, yo, if I can keep all these Calatheas alive in my care. Also, would you guys like to see a Calathea care video? Each time I make a Calathea care video, it flops hard. But I feel like you all need to know how to finally take care of your Calatheas because I've cracked the code. Let me know if you want to see that again. But yeah, my green thumb was really thumbing this year, and I feel like if I can keep all these difficult plants alive, I can tackle this young lady, the Syngonium silver frost. Also, my attitude now is like, and this is such a healthy attitude to approach this hobby, some plants, just see them as cut flowers, and if they last long for 6 months, 7 months in your care, enjoy the journey. Yeah, so with that attitude in mind, I feel like I want to tackle on this plant again. So please send your big box stores an email, write to them that they should please restock this plant. I definitely feel like it needs to have a moment, but I'm curious to know your thoughts as well. Do you feel like this is a forgotten plant? I think we'll both agree in that regard. Did you ever have this plant? Let me know if you did it or if you currently do so. And do you think this plant deserves a moment in 2026? Does she deserve a moment, a resurgence in 2026? Let me know in the comment section. Speaking of Syngoniums, this is another Syngonium that has been forgotten, and I hope it never comes back, because the only appeal this Syngonium had was the back of its leaves. You had to look at the leaves, underneath the leaves from a certain angle to be able to appreciate its so-called appeal. I'm talking about the Syngonium red arrow. remember this girl? Some of you may have forgotten. I have no social life, so I have nothing else to do with my life than remember these plant trends. Do you remember the Syngonium arrow? Do you guys remember when Syngoniums had their moment? When they were competing with Philodendrons for the spotlight and they had their moment? And that is where the Syngonium arrow was pitched to us. And we're so gullible back then that we purchased it, y'all. To me, there's absolutely nothing showy about this Syngonium. It's not one that grows beautifully. It's not one that you can beautifully style. It's not one that you can even grow beautifully trailing. Like, I literally don't think I've ever seen a beautiful specimen that was even climbing. Like, I think the fact that this plant had virtually no appeal and it was really difficult to style. You didn't know whether you wanted to grow it as a trailing plant or as a climbing plant. You didn't know what to do with it. Coupled with the fact that this was a difficult Syngonium. Yo, this was a difficult Syngonium. I can't be the only one. I don't know anyone in this my tropical country that had a thriving specimen. Heck, I don't know anyone in the world that ever had a thriving specimen of this plant. It seemed to only last like maybe 3 to 4 months in most people's care. So it was forgotten and should forever remain forgotten. I'm hoping this plant never makes a comeback. I'm still scarred and traumatized. Oh yeah, the Syngonium bread arrow. But I'm curious to know, am I just being a hater, or would you say this is an appealing plant? Like, if you saw this plant in your big box store, and would you buy it? Do you think this is a plant that should definitely make a resurgence? Is it a yes for you, or is it a no for you? Do let me know in the comment section. But left for me, I feel like it should never be brought back. It should never be brought back. Yeah, because I honestly do not get the appeal and I do not get the hype. Moving on from the Syngonium genus. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk about the Monsteras, the Monstera girlies, the Monstera girlies. Do you remember the Monstera standleyana? Babe, this plant seemed to be everywhere at one point. Oh my goodness gracious. Monstera was that one genus that honestly gave the Philodendron hype a run for its money. The girlies were collecting all these exotic Monsteras and developing all these exotic Monsteras like they were Pokemon cards. I will still say that the genus has honestly still held its ground, especially the deliciosas. But at one point, we were trying to explore other Monstera species, and the standleyana was one such one, specifically the standleyana albo. When this plant first hit the market, it was something that the rare plant girlies and the plant snobs were raving about. They were raving about it like, oh my goodness, it was seen as a sort of as a status symbol, and it was quite expensive and really difficult to get back then. And then I remember this plant started being tissue cultured and started being mass produced, and you could find it in your big box stores. But all of a sudden, no one cares about it anymore. It's not even being sold anymore. No one seems to want it anymore. And I think I know why. And that's because this plant is deceptively difficult. This plant, you just hear the word Monstera and you think, oh, it must be very easy, like the Monstera deliciosa, like the other Monsteras, the Adansonia that grows like a weed. And you buy it, and oh my goodness gracious, I give it 14 working days in your care. 14 working days, and it will decline all of a sudden. I don't think I know of anyone that had this plant and it lasted more than 6 months in their care. Ask yourself, do you know of anyone? That your friend Bethany that bought it, ask her how long it lasted in her care. Probably 3 months max. Yeah, this is a plant that, honestly speaking, I don't think we've honestly, till this day, I don't think anyone knows how to properly take care of this plant. I don't think anyone knows what this plant wants. Honestly, I had a beautiful specimen. It was doing well, and then literally it just seems to have that expiration period of like maybe 4 months, 3 months, if you're lucky, 6 months. And it will just decline. And when it declines fast. 1 minute you're like, oh, it's beautiful. Next minute, it's a hot friggin' mess. So I think a lot of us gave up. I think honestly a lot of us gave up, even though this is a beautiful plant. I will also say that this is also one that is quite difficult to style. It's quite difficult to grow. You ask yourself, is this a vining plant? What is this? Is this a vining plant? Will it vine down beautifully as a pothos? And you try to do that and it doesn't. And then you try to grow it on a pole and it looks odd on a pole. So there was that. But honestly speaking, I really loved this plant, and I still do. Like, I just love the texture, and I was so stupefied by the fact that it was actually Monstera. It made me realize that, oh my god, we really do not know anything about plants. Like, they can come in all shapes and sizes. They can be from the same genus and be extremely diverse. Like, oh my goodness gracious. And you know, I think I want her to make a comeback. I feel I'm not gonna call myself and say if I buy this plant again, it's gonna last 900 years in my care. But remember, we have a new attitude, especially if I can find one for a really cheap specimen, right? I don't mind having it in my collection again and just seeing how it goes. But over to you, girlies. Let me know your thoughts. Is this something that we should bring back in 2026? Also, please, if you manage to keep a Monstera standleyana alive till this very day, let us know what you're doing. And then you also need to write to the Guinness Book of Records to file an entry, because you're definitely a record holder. Definitely. But yeah, Monstera standleyana. Yeah. Speaking of another Monstera that was a flop, and I don't think it should be brought back, I'm just going to say that here, but I'm curious to know what you think. Monstera siltepecana. Remember when this Monstera was a thing and she was being marketed to us? But babes, this has always been a hard sell. Because you don't quite know what to do with this. I think the only person I know, and he's a plant wizard, so he's an exception, honestly. The only person I know that literally grew this plant to its full potential, to a beautiful specimen, is Sydney plant guy. And that's the only person I know that was able to pull that off. But for the rest of us average people, you really don't know what to do with this plant. And it just feels pointless, because there are very similar plants that truly outshine it in every regard. I remember it used to look a lot similar to the Epipremnum pinnatum, the Cebu blue pothos, that one. It used to look a lot similar, and Cebu blue pothos clearly is the more charismatic one here. And also it used to look quite similar to a piper, that Piper sylvaticum, that difficult plant that is so beautiful. But you know, she's beautiful. So again, it was a hard sell. And to me, left for me, this plant will never come back. She belongs in 2021. In the past. You know, we've all moved on and she should stay in the past. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. The Monstera siltepecana. Do you still have one in your collection? Do you think this plant should make a comeback? Would you even say this plant is forgotten? I think we'll all agree on that point. She's a forgotten girl, because you don't find her being sold in your big box store. Nobody stocks her anymore. Nobody gives a rat's bum about this babe. But do let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And darlings, let me pick my book up. Oh Jesus, we have come to the end. Oh my goodness gracious, I really enjoy making this sort of sit down and chat like a bitter auntie about plants videos with you. I really, really hope you enjoyed it. But before you go, I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comment section. And also, did I forget any plant? Was there any other plant that I forgot that you feel has just disappeared out of the radar? Do let me know. And if this video does well, I'm gonna do a part 2, heck, even possibly a part 3 if you guys enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And do remember to check out my YouTube membership, okay, for more gossipy videos like this. I'm gonna see you in the comment section, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. Till then, bye my loves.